So, I said Frank is a father, an educator, an author, and a natural bodybuilder. And yeah, he's going to be talking about the mindset of people to better themselves and become the everyday warrior that everyone has in them. So, Frank, welcome to the stream.
Thank you very much. I am excited to be here. Cool introduction. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I'm a little flustered now. Okay, so yeah, let's start by telling a little bit about yourself and how you became a part of Days of Inspiration.
Okay. Um, this comes through the fitness world. I always involved or drawn to fitness and bodybuilding. Was 14, 15 years old, and uh, I competed for a while when I was in my early teens and early 20s, or late teens, early 20s. And it was something that I continued doing as, you know, competing and life happened. I got married. I had two beautiful daughters. Went through a divorce, raised my daughters. I teach for a living as an educator and continue to train. And I've trained most of the time with the same training partner I've had since college now. I've been lifting together for years. And at some point, I had the urge to get back on stage after probably 15 years away from it. Um, I never trained for the attention. Um, it was just something I did. It's a passion I have. I enjoy what happens in the gym for all of the lessons it teaches me inside the gym, if that makes sense. And so, um, things like discipline, things like setting, overcoming obstacles, getting knocked down, getting back up, uh, you know, challenging yourself, facing those challenges, facing fears, just the accountability, self accountability, positive, positive thinking, positive self talk. And so I wanted to get back on stage just for my own desire, and I did. And it went well, and then I wanted to do it again. And so one show turned into two, which turned into three, four, five shows. And in there, I earned a pro card, which was not ever in the cards or on the radar, but opportunity, and I achieved it. And so with that, it was at that point was, well, I'm not going to be a stereotypical bodybuilder. I don't want to be, I don't care how much you bench. Nobody needs to know how much I bench or don't bench. Um, I go to the gym to live. I don't live in a gym. And there's a much greater message outside of I pick things up and, put them down. So that was, that conversation started the night I earned that pro card. We went out to celebrate after and sat in a pizza place having my pizza, Coke, and Hershey bar. And the conversation was, well, what do we do with this? How do I impact people? Because big deal. You're a bodybuilder. You lift weights. So what? That doesn't mean anything to anybody. That's my own personal journey and passion. But how do we use this in a way to impact other people's lives? And so that was the next journey, and it developed eventually into those Monday motivational mantras that I've done online for quite years now. And with each one, I would pick a quote. And most of the time, it wasn't my quote, but it was something that spoke to me. It might be a song lyric that I heard. It might be something I read. It might just be something in my head. And whatever I was dealing with at the time, it applied to. And I had thoughts on it. And I would share those thoughts. And sometimes, I thought this probably only makes sense to me in my head and doesn't sound anything like it when I put it out there. But I would put it out there because I figured if I I have these thoughts, or if I'm going through these things or challenges or whatever, other people may need to hear that message too, and it may resonate with them. And it turns out it does. It does. It did, and it does. I started getting feedback on those, and the comments and the conversations that came out there led to doing online Q&As. And some of it was about training and nutrition and things like that, but then some of it was just about mindset stuff and overcoming obstacles. And that led to meeting Paul, our teammate here, and he brought me into Days of Inspiration. And I thought, what an incredible opportunity. That at that time, I was just beginning to write my book, Everyday Warrior. And I thought, what a great way to be able to reach many people at once. What a platform to be given. And so I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be here and work with Days of Inspiration.
Yeah, anyone who's watching right now, you can see on the right-hand side there's some image slideshow going on, and you can see a couple of his examples of the motivational Mondays that he does. The two that are showing are the last 2 days done, the past couple Mondays, along with one of his competition photos and his booked. That's also showing on there. We do have a question, Frank, and I'm going to reword it a little bit here. And the question is, how many hours in a typical day do you spend on your bodybuilding life between the workouts and your diet and all of that?
Well, I'll tell you, surprisingly, I spend about 3 to 4 days a week where I'm in the gym for an hour to an hour and a half, as far as the workouts go. That surprises a lot of people, but my workouts don't go, and that's with 2 of us. Like I said, Pete and I have trained together for years, so we've got this down. The mission of the gym is go in, do work, go home. And plus, he has kids, I have kids. I don't want to spend 4 or 5 hours in the gym.
No.
Or does my body. So he, we would go in. So I spend maybe 60 minutes to an hour and a half in there, warm up, set, stretching, mobility stuff, the actual workout, and get out. So that's those hours. But then, as far as the nutrition and things, a lot of that is, we all eat. So I don't know, I plan my meals and I plan my nutrition and stuff. So there's that. That takes up a little time. But I don't, like I said, I go to the gym to live. I don't want to live in the gym. So same thing outside of the gym. I know my meals. I know what food that I like to eat. I don't, there's nothing off limits. No foods that I don't eat or won't eat, unless I just don't like the taste of them. But there's none of this, like I can only eat, chicken and broccoli and tilapia or whatever. If I'm eating ice cream, I'm going to make it fit my nutrition for the day.
Right. Do you prep like once a week or twice a week, or you just eat whatever during the week?
Sometimes, like when I cook chicken, I'll cook chicken, I'll grill it up in bulk. Just so I can always just grab it and have it. But other stuff, I'll kind of as I go, or there's stuff that'll do okay. Like I'll make rice or cook potatoes, a bunch at a time. And then I cut them up and eat them and things like that through the week. But everything else is just kind of done. If I'm making breakfast or oatmeal or pancakes or waffles, I'll just what I'm eating and then I'll just kind of cook it right there. So but it's not, the rest of, I teach, so I have a job to go do, and I have 2 girls who are teenagers and keep me busy because clearly their activities are much more important.
You mentioned your 2 daughters. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yep. So I run them there and run them around and spend time with them, and I don't want to be like, we can't go out now because I have to cook chicken. So
you mentioned your 2 daughters. The question is, are they interested in the bodybuilding or anything like that?
No, they I mean, they enjoy that I do it. They don't have interest in it. I've taken them to the gym here and there just when they had to want to learn to work out and stuff. They're both involved in other things. And, they come with me to competitions and stuff, and they love to travel. And so I'm there for the contest, but I try not to make the entire weekend about that. After the show, or even in between, we're going out for lunch, and the next day, wherever we are, we travel out of town. I'll try and find some sights to see and things that they would like to do, so we make more of a week out of it, rather than I went to Miami and all I saw was the inside of a theater 2 days. I want them actually getting something out of it, and so I balance that, and they balance it with me too because they know why we're going. So
Yeah,
they put up with sitting in the auditorium with me for stuff.
Right. As long as we get to the beach afterwards, right?
That's right. As long as we get to the beach.
You got it. All right, so let's just clarify everything here. We're talking about your training and your competitions and such. Let's compare. Let's talk about what you actually do, because most people who know of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lou Ferrigno and all those guys and the competitions they did in the past, you differ. You differ from that because you are a natural bodybuilder. Can you explain a little more what that means as opposed to what they've done in the past?
Sure. Yeah, the bodybuilding world does seem to be split into two different arenas. Like in my end of the bodybuilding, the natural bodybuilding, and just like Olympic athletes and college athletes get drug tested by WADA, which is the World Anti-Doping Agency. I also get drug tested, not only before competitions, but could be drug tested year round, off season, whenever. That's just to kind of keep a level playing field. That's for besides the obvious steroids and illegal substances. Um, there's a whole list that WADA puts out that or substances used in either medications or supplements that aren't illegal, but they feel give certain people an advantage over others, so it tips the playing field a bit, and so they're banned. So there's a banned substance list. So I have to be careful of those too, because again, like if somebody who doesn't compete or isn't in bodybuilding, is using supplements, and it's totally fine.
Yeah.
But for us that get drug tested, if it's on the banned substance list, it's not fine. So that's the natural world of things.
Yeah, I know. Even there's some medications, because I remember. I think it was the 2010 Winter Olympics, where one of our athletes was caught because they took a cold medicine prior to their competition,
Right.
and they were flagged because they had an illegal substance in them. They didn't realize.
Yep.
So you got to be very careful of what you take on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and the responsibilities, on us as the athletes, to kind of double check what what we want to use and things. So there is that responsibility that comes with, but it's in the same respect, I'm very proud to be able to say I'm a natural bodybuilder.
Absolutely.
And that was a decision I made a time ago. In high school and stuff, I didn't really know too much about steroids and things like that. But I remember my first year of college. I still trained at the gym and stuff, but there was people who would talk about it or whatever, and it was more like, "Ooh, if this person openly says I'm using them." I remember having a conversation with myself of when it got to the point that I wanted to try that or go that route, I would just stop lifting because that's not why I lifted. I didn't lift. I mean, I want to be big and strong as possible without all that. And I did it for me. It wasn't for appearance. It wasn't to look big. It was, for attention. It was something I did. And if it was going to go there, then it wasn't the right way for me to go about it. So that, so that was it. That was a conversation,
And it's not to despair, like not to throw shade at people who do that kind of stuff. It's just another federation. It's another competition. They have their own. You have your own. It's two separate worlds. If whatever you want to do, you do. That's just your choice.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's just like anything. I mean, I don't drink alcohol, and not anything against alcohol or anybody that drinks alcohol. It was just something I never really got into. Like playing golf. I never got into golf. I don't hate golfers. I just, it's just what that's just me. It's not a statement on anybody else. It's just this is what I do and who I am. That's all.
Yeah, they say golf is a walk well wasted.
That's why they have those golf carts. Those are fun to drive. I don't know anything about hitting a golf ball, but I can drive a golf cart.
Me neither. Another question we have here is what would you say has been the biggest disproved stereotype about bodybuilding, and what would you say has been the most surprising realization you've come across in the industry?
Oh, that's a tough one. Well, I think the best thing is the amount of science behind bodybuilding. There's so much misinformation and so much, what do they call it, bro science and all that kind of stuff out there, but there's actual, scientific evidence behind the nutrition and the training principles and dieting principles. That stuff I find fascinating. I eat that stuff up. I don't want to listen to the guy at the gym tell me, "Yo, bro, you got to do this." I want to read about the research behind it and the mechanics of it and the whys. So that's one of the greatest things, how much science and stuff. And the other thing is how many people I know in the industry or in the fitness world that do not in any way, shape, or form fit that bodybuilder stereotype. I lift things up and put them down, and I carry my gallon water jug. And,
Lightweight.
Yeah, run. Every day you have to do chest on Mondays and that kind of thing. People that that I meet along the way in this are so much more multifaceted and such great people. So that's probably the biggest disproven for me is, it's not a bunch of meatheads running around. You look at me, it's really people on the same journey for various reasons. People decide to want to compete or just want to go to the gym. I know a lot of people. My training partner, we've trained, like I said, for 30 years, has absolutely no desire to ever step foot on a stage, but has a passion for the gym and all the things that come with it. And so we train great together. We don't even talk to each other in the gym. We go in, we'll talk warming up and stuff, but once the workout starts, other than how much you want on this side, we don't talk. We got work to do. We know exactly why we're there, and that so it's I don't know if that answers either question, but that's the best I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay. Let's talk about this pandemic here, and you did something that caused a lot of stir on Instagram and Facebook when the gym started closing in March of last year. Why don't you tell everybody what your mindset was towards that and what you actually did to train towards your competitions?
Sure. Yeah. It did cause caused some stir, and I didn't realize it until after it happened. Uh, before all that hit last March, I already knew I was going to compete last year. I competed the year before in a bunch of them. I did well. I felt great. I wanted to compete again last year. Uh, January, February, I was invited to compete in the upcoming Mr. America, which goes back, like to the early Arnold days and things.
Yeah, we can compare it to the Arnold Classic, whereas it's an invitation only competition.
Yes, and so they hadn't run it in a few years, and I was given an invite for it, and I was very honored to be asked because I don't expect anybody to even know who I am. I just go out there to do my thing and go home. So to get invited to something like that was quite an honor. It was very cool. So I knew, okay, I want to do this, and I had a few other shows in mind, and then everything closed. And so, I came home from teaching on a Friday, Saturday. They announced schools are closed. I went to the gym Saturday or Sunday. Monday afternoon they announced gyms are going to close Monday night. And I didn't really think much of it. I thought, well, it's probably a week or two, and it was kind of time for a break because my training programs, the way we run them, every 4 or 6 weeks I'll back off a week or take time out of the gym just to kind of recoup and then write a new training program, and we'll get back at it when we're fully recovered and feel good. So, the initial closing didn't really bother me, and I didn't really think too much about it. It was just, we're going to do some active recovery, get a break, we'll write up the new program and get back at it. And, so I didn't have any equipment to do anything like, any gym type training. I don't own any equipment at home, and when it first closed, even if I wanted to start creating a gym, you couldn't find equipment, and if you could, they marked it up about 500%. So the next best thing was, well, this is temporary anyway. I'm not going to spend money on equipment. So I looked around the house. I had a book bag. I had a sand in my garage. I put the sand in the book bag. I threw a couple bricks in there. Pete and I would meet up at the gym, which was closed, but the parking lot was big and it wasn't cold out. We did body weight squats, we did walking lunges, we did, one curls with the book bag, whatever we could think of for something light but active. And then, things progressed where, okay, the gym's not opening in a week or two, and we're not going back to work yet. So it became more of a now what? There was that point when I thought, well, I'm sitting home all day. Even if I'm going to teach online, I'm going to be sitting home all day. I could just sit around whatever I want, whenever I want, because the kitchen's right here. Nope, I'm going to stick to, the meals that I plan out and prepare, and I'm going to hit my nutrition goals. And when this is over, I don't want to say, well, I could have, but COVID. I didn't want to use COVID as an excuse.
Right.
So with that I knew in the end when it was over, and I didn't think it was going to, still be going a year later here. I thought it was a few months. Once the initial 2 weeks was going to continue, I thought, all right, this is a month delay. I wanted to be able to say, in spite of COVID, I still accomplished my goal.
Right.
Then with training, it became well, now what do we do? We can only stick so much stuff in our book bag. I think I broke my book bag, and Pete had a heavier duty one, so we used that. And so, all right, I had a wheelbarrow in the backyard. We filled it with dirt. I could do shrugs with it. I was walking my dog, noticed we had logs down the block that had been cut by the town in the woods. And since the grass and things hadn't grown in yet, I started pulling logs out of the woods, bringing them home. And so I was like, okay, we could curl with this log because it's not too big, but we can get a handle on it. We could, shoulder press stuff. We could bench press stuff, but I didn't have a bench. So I had a Coleman cooler. weight on the cooler didn't fall in, so we use that for benching. And I didn't, it became a whole new way of thinking. It wasn't even like, how do we replicate things? It was just, what can we, let's try it. And if it didn't work, it didn't work. As long as we could do something safely, and get the results we were looking for, get the workout in, get the effort, and it was good. So, I ended up with 6 or 7 different logs in my garage of different thicknesses, lengths, and things, and started creating workouts. We would squat, we could bench press, we could shoulder press, grab tie down straps, and I was able to hook those around the logs. I have a couple gym handles just of my own, and so I could start to use them for handles. We could barbell, kind of barbell row, where it was a log row. But because now we had straps and handles, it kind of worked like a row, and so that was creative, but it worked. I tied one of the straps to the back of my car. We put the car in neutral. I had a V-shaped handle from the gym, gym type handle.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would do almost like seated rows with the car. Pull, then you would have, somebody would be in the driver's seat, hit the brake, I'd back up till the strap got tight, pull, kind of squeeze the lats and try that. We went over to the college and pushing the car across the parking lot, because the college was closed, but the parking lot was big and everything. So then that worked. And then when that wasn't enough, I tried playing tug of war with my car up my driveway. It's only a slight incline, but that was not happening. The car won. So, but we could do it on a flat surface. I found this, in the front of the car, if I tied a rope, I can kind of tug of war with the car across the parking lot. And on the back of the car, I would hook that tow strap around. I would get in it, so it would on my weight, and then I would kind of dig in, and I could kind of walk it back across the parking lot. So we had the car going from both ends, and that worked. And those are the kind of the videos and things that started hitting Instagram. And I would cut my shins up, and there'd be blood on the logs because you're trying to row or deadlift. I try and recreate a deadlift with a fat log, and like I said, sometimes it worked.
People get bloody shins with a barbell, never mind with a log.
Yeah, so, and that was how training went. And I didn't weigh the logs, and lifting logs was a whole different world because, system-wise, it taxed us something fierce. And those logs aren't balanced. You can't grip it.
Nope.
Like a barbell, it was just kind of how do you balance it on your fingertips without tipping it and it crashing on your head, pulling off the back. We had that. Trying just to squat a log, we would have to stand it up on my workbench in the garage and then kind of tip it over our shoulders and then get it in place. And, just doing that was a workout.
I'm sure.
So as long as we could do it safely, we tried it, and that's how, and I just kept coming up with different things to kind of keep training all muscle groups and stay on track. I started using the car for conditioning. I started using tossing a log overhead back and forth for conditioning. Lifting one of the heavier logs, kind of carrying across my garage back for time and stuff, and it got us through. It lasted a lot longer than I wished. It was 2 weeks, and eventually it was like, all right, by June we'll be back in the gym, and then it wasn't until the very end of August. But it was okay, this isn't working, now what? Or we've done this, now what? Where do we go? And it just kind of kept steamrolling on its own. But I actually figured out if I tied the rope at the top of the driveway to a bench I have in the garage that wouldn't move, myself to the car, then I could kind of pull the rope as a tug of war and drag the car up the driveway.
Right.
So that worked, that kind of work. They can only get it about halfway up. Like I said, the slightest incline. Eventually, the car takes over. But you know, it and that was about the most visible of training. Everything else I kind of kept in the garage, keep the door closed, but you can't pull a car up the driveway without people noticing sometimes. It was, I was a little self-conscious about it, but at the same time, I was going to be on stage and I wanted to do my best. So that's it.
You're sort of doing the stereotypical bodybuilder grunt thing with that, doing all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Oh yeah, crazy bodybuilder pulling cars. Question here. What would you say has been the toughest part of training specifically for bodybuilding to get on stage? The definition, the posing, like what part is the hardest part?
The toughest part is probably the trusting the process. It's a long process for me. I take usually 20 to 24 weeks or so to get ready for a competition. So there's no miracle 12 weeks and you go from full stage ready and
flab to fab.
there's no do it in 30 days thing. So it's a long, slow process. So if I start 20, 24 weeks out ahead of time, and that doesn't take into account the fact that I monitor everything year round.
Yeah.
The weight doesn't, a half pound, if I lose a half a pound in a week, that's great. Some weeks the weight goes up a half pound, and so it's a long process, and mentally it's hard. And that's probably the toughest thing, is just to trust the process. Like, I know if I'm, hitting my nutrients the way I should be, if I'm hitting the workouts the way I plan, I try and get enough sleep and rest, and I'm doing all of the things. I'm practicing my posing. I'm doing the conditioning work. And regardless of what the scale says or how I think I look, I have to trust that in the end it's all going to be there. And so that's the hard part, and that's a hard thing, because you don't want to, whole process. So from week to week, if I'm like, oh, this is a great week, I'm going to keep it up, and then you get to the next week, you're like, oh, I don't think that was great. I don't look good, or I don't feel good, or my weight went up, or it didn't drop enough. I don't want to do anything drastic just because of that. I have to just stick to the plan. The plan's already written well in advance, and you make little minor changes, but nothing drastic based on how you feel or how you wake up one day. And so having the discipline to know you are doing the work, just keep doing it, is probably one of the toughest things about contest stuff.
Another question here. Speaking of the pandemic, with you, because you've basically lifted weights in your entire life since you were 14. But in general, bodybuilding in general, you find that being a bodybuilder gives you a better immune system. Like, do you often catch colds and stuff like that?
No, I rarely catch cold or get sick. And I don't know if that's, probably that plays into it, just lifting and being healthy and things like that. But yeah, before the pandemic, I think I take like one day off of work and however many years for being actually sick and ill. But yeah, basically I stay pretty healthy and feel pretty healthy all the time.
Yeah,
I'm pretty fortunate. I don't have any allergies or food issues or anything like that. So thankfully, I stay healthy. Plus, I work with students year round, so I think I have an immune system just from being in the schools.
And just a comment that I think it's way more inspirational and commendable to be a natural bodybuilder. Seeing what a person can sculpt and mold out of themselves is amazing.
Well, thank you. the end of the day.
Right.
And
So
a lot of times in my posts, I will say, if I can do it, you can do it. I do anything. There's nothing magical about it. Just time, consistency, and effort.
yeah.
You can do it. You can do it.
Keep missing me that every day. I need that kick in the ass. All right. So let's talk about your book, Everyday Warrior. What is it? Why did you write it?
Sure. This again was a few years in the making. People had brought it up and had asked about me doing one for a while, and so it's not a novel. It's not meant to be read cover to cover. There's no chapters to it. But as I was saying earlier, in learning my thoughts and experiences and vision or mindset, whatever you'd like to call it, resonates with people and draws people to those messages. I wanted to do something that would apply to anybody, So this wasn't going to be a bodybuilding book, I don't think anybody needs, me to tell them, how to squat or, what days they should work out. I mean, that stuff's everywhere. And if you can cut through the misinformation, you can get it all for free and do it right.
Right.
So this was going to be a much different type of book. And so what I did was I took a collect of my Monday motivational mantra quotes and my take on each of those quotes. And I took 52 of them. So in the book, it works out to being a year's worth of quotes. And for each quote, what I created was an action guide that people could, this book is meant to be written in and flagged and folded and used as a workbook. And so I discussed, how to create goals and things like that. But the action guides, there's a space, just a blank space that I call the mind map. Just jot down ideas, create a web. If you're a visual thinker, you can kind of sketch things out there. And then there's a weekly goal, like what is, for this week, this 7 days, what is the goal? You have your ultimate goal.
Mm-hmm.
What this week? And then, when are you going to take action on those goals? And what's the first step? If my goal is to, run a marathon, my first step might be to run around the block. If I've never run before, personally, I'm not a big runner, so running around the block would be my first step, and it might be a few houses before I need to walk. Mm-hmm. And so, if that's my goal is, okay, I'm going to run around the block. Well, what's my first step? Well, you know what? I don't really have any good shoes to run in. I need to go get, instead of making that the excuse, well, I was going to run, but I don't have shoes. Well, you already know you don't have the right shoes. Go pick a pair, and then you're done. You remove whatever obstacles in the way. That's another section of that action guide. And then there's items of what are you going to do and what are you going to complete, and you can kind of check it off like a little checklist. And then I left the space just to think, at the end of the week, this really well. I went and got those shoes. I only ran 2 days. I think next week I want to try for 3, or I ran halfway around the block. Next week I want to try and get 3/4 of the way around the block, whatever it is. And then it goes, to week 2 with a new quote and some thoughts to think about of mindset, and then the action guide again. And so, the idea is people have goals. We'll take a large goal, and then break it down into something manageable that you can do this week, you can do today, you can do in the next hour, and do it. And so we set it up. So no longer is running a marathon like possible goal, because now you've broken it down to, all right, I'm going to run a half marathon first. I'm going to run a 5K first. Before that, well, I'm going to run around the block first. and then you can build up from there. Okay, well, I've done this now, and then that experience and that action kind of builds momentum. You know, I've run around the block once. Now I've run around the block twice. I feel pretty good. How far? You know, I've run a mile. All right, well, if I want to do a 5K, that's I think 3 miles.
3.1, yeah.
Yeah, 3.1. So, okay, all right, I've run a mile. So, all right, how long is it going to take me to run 2 miles? Well, I'm already at a mile and a half. And you keep going. But it's a little bit. You know, if I think I'm going to run 26.2 miles, but, you know, hey, I ran around the block and that's, you know, 3/4 of a mile. That's pretty good. I don't have to do that, you know, a couple times and I've already hit a 5K. All right, I can do that. And manageable, and you're accountable. That's the other thing about this book. If you know, you can write it down, you can see it.
Yeah.
You know, maybe nobody else sees it. Nobody's gonna call you up and be like, you know, hey Frankie, did you go run around the block today? No, but I know it because I wrote it down. Like I wrote it down because I want it. Right. And so I hold myself, and at the end of the week, I can say, yeah, I did this. Now what's next? And that's kind of the whole purpose of the book. It's like I said, not a fitness book. You know, your goal could be writing a resume, getting a job. It could be, you know, get a college degree or cleaning out your garage or your basement. Whatever the goal is, it applies to any area of life.
Incredible. Well, I just put the link to your book up on the chat, so anyone who is interested, they can go get it from Amazon. A question came up. Where is it here? I just lost it. Have you found that you can apply any of the disciplines that you've learned from bodybuilding into your teaching career?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, you know, the discipline of just, you know, setting goals and accomplishing them, of like, okay, I have, you know, these lessons to plan week. I want to plan them ahead of time, you know, kind of like the same way I plan my workouts and my meals and things like that. Everything's done ahead of time, and that's important to me. You know, and that same positive message is the same message, you know, that we're talking about here is the same thing I try and convey to my students. You know, I work with high school students, and for the past several years, I've been heavily in with math. And so, you know, math is not everybody's cup of tea. And most of my students will come in saying, I hate math. You know, we're doing algebra and geometry, and they're already done before they started. You know, so it's building that mindset in order to get them to kind of switch their own perception of themselves and of the content. You know, we talked about removing obstacles. Well, you know, this is already the obstacle and the excuse. Well, I'm bad at math. Telling yourself, I'm not going to do the math because I'm bad at it. Well, at one time you were bad at riding a bike and you fell on your face, but now you can ride a bike. You know, so it's removing those obstacles and overcoming them, and so a lot of that applies to teaching. You know, both on my end as the teacher and both with working with the students, trying to instill some of those same values that I learned in the gym, and transferring that to those kids in the classroom.
Yeah, I mean, you've touched on it a lot in the past, but we really haven't spoken specifically about the mental mindset that people need. Like especially in bodybuilding, it's not just the physical, the lifting of the weights and everything. There's such a mental game that goes along with your bodybuilding.
Yes, yeah, it's definitely mental. You know, but that's kind of what I love about it. I love the challenge of it. You know, and I love kind of pushing limits. You know, there was a conversation recently about, how big can you get, or how much muscle can a person build, or, you know, strength, or whatever it may be. And, I don't know. I mean, yeah, genetically and everything else, I'm sure there is a limit to what I can do. But there's no magic, the bell doesn't go off and say, oh, you reached your limit, it's time to stop. So, for me, I will continue to push, myself and set goals beyond where I am now, because I don't know what the limit is, and I'm not going to know when I reach it. There's no finish line, there's no sign that pops up. So if anything, there's just the mindset of, it's not a matter of can you, it's more of are you willing.
Mm-hmm. And it goes for anything in life, really.
Yeah, I know I could get a PhD. Am I willing to put in the work and do the coursework to actually achieve that? That becomes a question. It's not a can we, it's more of an are we willing to do it? And that goes for anything.
All right. Well, this is a personal question for me, because since the last year I've been stuck. So, what would you recommend for someone who gets stuck and has a hard time moving forward?
I think that the key is to pick the one thing that you want to do and start. It doesn't have to be, it's kind of like climbing a ladder. I can see the top of the ladder most of the time, and maybe I can't see the top of the ladder, but I can't get there if I don't touch every single rung of that ladder. I can't skip any. I can't just say, if I lean better up against a 2-story building and say, oh, there's the top. Unless I start climbing from the bottom. And so I think being stuck, which, especially with the pandemic, I think a lot of us, have gotten stuck in various ways. It's just a matter of, okay, I'm going to start today and I'm going to do this. And it's just that one thing. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be the end all, it's just a thing. If it's, a weight loss goal, and, I'm going to eat, I'm going to prepare one healthy meal today. It's not, I'm swearing off ice cream forever, I'm never eating pizza again. It's, I'm going to prepare one healthy meal. And it might take 15 minutes, and it turns out well, but then you build from there. I'm going to do the same thing tomorrow, or tomorrow I'm going to, I'm going to bring the lunch instead of buying it, going out for lunch, or whatever it may be. And I think whatever arena people are thinking about doing, whatever that focus is, it's just picking that one small, and a lot of times it's just telling yourself that you can. Like I said, kind of like my students with the, I can't do math. That's already the first obstacle we face.
Mm-hmm.
Doing the math, it's the mindset of I found an obstacle, therefore it keeps me from doing it. We've got to remove the obstacle, whatever it is.
Perfect. I mean, I've done the mud runs as a physical example. That there's always obstacles in the way, right? And if you say I can't do this, then you're done from step one. So you just gotta keep climbing over those obstacles and keep going until you reach that goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. You shared a great quote. The time needed to complete a goal is not a reflection of it being attainable. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, that was something that I put in my book, and people think like, I've got to do this by a certain date. I think is good, and an end goal is good. But a lot of times it's not so much, whether you can or not. It becomes the journey, rather than the end. The end. So, kind of like competing. It can't be if I win. If I win, I'm great. If not, I'm done. Well, like I said, I don't control winning and losing. I can only control me. So, the goal is the process, and so you have to put in the process. And as long as you're willing to keep working and improving upon it, it may take longer than we set that up in our head, like things like New Year's. because everybody has a 30-day challenge come January 1st. I'm going to be in the best shape of my life by February 1st. No, you're not. You're going to be in better shape than you were December 31st if you stick with it. But after the 30 days, you can't just stop.
Right.
You got to keep going. And so, goals take time. Anything takes time. Anything worth doing is going to take time. And so I don't want people getting bogged down in I set this goal, I was going to do all of this in a week and it didn't happen, so I'm done. Don't judge, how long it takes to do something on whether or not it's attainable. It's always attainable. It's taking more time than you thought, or, it just takes time. That's
exactly.
You just have to be willing to be consistent at it.
So we're just about ready to wrap up, unless there's any other questions from the audience. Any last words you have to say?
No, I'm thankful to be here. And, if people want to find me, they can find me on Instagram. They can, find my email or email me. It's just frank@gmail.com. And I would love to chat, or find me, on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. Send me a message. I'll get back to you. I'd love to chat, answer questions, talk some more. But otherwise, no, it's been fantastic. I've loved it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming in, Frank. I really appreciate it, despite our little goof up in the first half hour of the show. But I really appreciate you being on, and hopefully we can do this live sometime soon.
Yes, I look forward to that time. But yeah, thank you for having me on. I'm very, very appreciative of the opportunity to be on here with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, everyone, for joining in for our Twitch talk. In 2 weeks' time, we will have Brittany Nicole Larson, and she is another incredible bodybuilder. Oh, we got loud enough. Sorry, let me. Yeah, she's another incredible person, another bodybuilder, but her story is a lot different than Frank's. So I can't wait for her to share her story. So again, thank you, Frank, for being here. Thank you all for joining us. Yeah, has been very informative. We're getting a lot of positive feedback here, Frank. So thank you again.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Brian.
All right, everyone. Thank you, and have a good night.